4 of Our Identity, the podcast. I'm your host, Tokyo Sharif, and I'm here with
James Moran.
And so kind of basically what we're going to do today is have a little conversation, learn about you, where you're from, who you are. And the big thing is we're trying to learn about your life experiences and some of the biggest challenges you've faced, overcame, and currently are maybe going through.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind opening up and kind of sharing that, we're excited to learn a lot about you, and thank you for allowing us into your space, first of all.
Yeah.
We're here in your basement and surrounded by a lot of interesting things, artwork, books, a lot of cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah, thank you.
So where would you like to start?
Whatever you want to know about me.
Okay.
I mean, wherever we could start at the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. So who are you, and where do you call home?
Okay, so I'm James Moran, and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, basically Washington, D.C. area.
Mm-hmm.
And I call this my home because I was raised in this area. I was raised on the border of D.C. and Maryland,
Okay.
on the Maryland side of the border. And I've spent a lot of time living in California, a lot of time living in India,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful places around the world, but I returned to this area to settle down, and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. So, and at what point in your life did you go to California, and which parts of the state were you in?
So I grew up in DC until I was 18. So
Okay.
I did spend a little bit of time abroad when I was a child, but more or less I went to all my schooling in the Washington, DC area.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned 18, I wanted to experience something else because I actually felt claustrophobic in DC because I basically grew up with a kind of like a spiritual bent when I was maybe like an adolescent, like around the end of junior high, the beginning of high school. I got really, really interested in things that could be considered spirituality.
Okay.
And I was raised in an environment that was really, my family's academic,
Mm-hmm.
and the city is very politically oriented.
Correct.
So there's a lot of politics and a lot of academia, neither of which I felt a strong kinship with,
Mm-hmm.
and there was not that much kind of conversation about spirituality. So I felt a little out of sorts. I felt like I wasn't really being fed.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel out of place at all, or?
Yeah, I did. I felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point in my life, I wanted to escape DC,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved to California. I was 18, graduated from high school, so I applied to colleges in
Mhm.
different parts of the United States, and I got accepted to University of California in Santa Cruz,
Okay.
and that's where I decided to go. I had visited the campus, beautiful campus, the
Mhm.
water, redwood nature,
Mm-hmm.
just very different from what I'd experienced thus far in my life. So I decided to go out to California. I also had a sense that maybe it was different out. I got a sense that maybe there could be kind of like I could get fed in terms of like the spiritual interests. I actually had studied some different things having to do with spirituality and knew that they had like a home base in California. So I decided to go out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, because when you think Cali, you think like the hippies and
Yeah,
everyone just
totally.
at the beach and having a good time.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
not trying to generalize or stereotype in that sense, but that's kind of what you think about when you first hear.
Yeah, I had an idealized vision of California.
Right.
I definitely thought it was like more laid back,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt there was a kind of a heavy energy in DC at that time,
Yeah.
and it was more like light and bright and sunny.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to California. I also was really interested in particular teachers.
Mm-hmm. Through college or
No.
spirituality one?
Yeah, spiritual. Yeah, not college
Okay.
teachers, but like I had been studying. I had read a book in high school called PCAL,
Mm-hmm.
which was written by Sasha Shulgin, who's a chemist
Mm-hmm.
involved in the psychedelic movement, and he was located in California. Has also studied the work of the pioneering psychedelic therapy researcher Stan Groff, and had studied with him a little bit here in DC.
Okay.
He was based in California. There's a organization called MAPS, which also has to do with psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. They were in California.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of oriented towards the West Coast,
Okay.
more of like an innovative, kind of a little bit more therapeutic,
Yeah.
psychedelic, spiritual, innovative vibe.
And did you get a chance to meet any of these authors or people that you were?
You know, interesting thing is like yes and no, because what happened was I went to California and I went out there because these people and associations were out there. But then when I got there, I was a freshman and I was having a great time. It was a really fun school, the University of California, Santa Cruz.
Yeah, you get all that freedom.
I mean, it was just so like so beautiful, you know. And then plus, I was away from home. I was with a ton of people my age, and I got to get to know all different types of people and like a lot of socializing. I was one of the most social times of my life. I still managed to get some schoolwork done. I managed to get by with like A's and B's, even though they didn't quite clearly grade that way at that school. But like, but I did a lot more socializing than anything else. But at the same time, I had a roommate, wonderful roommate, real California kid, and he was, you know, teaching me how to climb redwood trees and like, just be California hippie dudes.
Going hiking and like being part of nature.
And being part of nature, even like streaking the campus naked and stuff like that.
Did you do it?
Yeah, we did. We played some frisbee naked and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And so so frisbee and like so anyways, he was like come with me to this yoga class. It's offered free on campus. And I was like, yoga, like what's that? You know, like what's that class about? And he's like, oh, we do sun salutations, movement. And he showed me, and he was like, come with me, check it out. And I was like, I was just going everywhere, meeting everybody, experimenting with all different stuff. So then I was like, sure. And I came to the yoga class. I really struggled through it because I was really tight. My muscles were just naturally like really tight. And I'd been doing like weightlifting too, and I was like just really tight. And I struggled through the class a lot. And then at the end, do like a relaxation lying on the ground, face up, palms up, called Shavasana. And I was only laying there for like 3 or 5 minutes, and I just vanished. I don't know where I went, but when the teacher like brought us back into our awareness, you know, I had gone into such deep rest that just in that brief period of time, I got up, my eyes were fresh, and I felt like I'd gotten like 2 or 3 super good night's sleeps, and I was like, I couldn't remember when I felt that fresh.
Okay. So
then I started going back every day that I could to yoga class. My roommate never went back.
Oh, wow, really? Interesting thing. So the person that introduced you,
he never went back, but I went, and I went religiously. And then towards the end of, I think freshman year maybe, or maybe it was sophomore year, I was like, I want to do study abroad because I know I'd like to travel. And I could only speak English, so my options were the UK or Australia or India. And I was thinking about the UK or Australia, and I told my yoga teacher, and she was like, oh, you should definitely go to India. Not only that, write to this yoga institute and study there too. And so then I started considering India, and I wrote to the yoga institute, and I decided to go to India because I'd also done some meditation in high school that was coming from India. Okay. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to India, and I applied, and I got accepted to go to the study abroad program, and then I applied, and I got accepted to do to the yoga institute when my academic studies were done. So my junior year, I moved abroad to India. Okay, so you were about 20 maybe? I was exactly 20. I turned 21 in India, and that changed. You know, I moved to California for these particular teachers, but in the end, I ended up just getting super into yoga and meditation. I never even went to those teachers. The psychedelic route. Yeah, like I didn't. I mean, decades later I did, but like at that time I was like, I just got super into yoga and meditation. I was in India. I actually got really sick in India. Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit before, where you had like, what was it, tapeworms or? Well, I had hepatitis. I got hepatitis, and then I also had parasites. And so I was just ill, and I had scheduled to go to the yoga institute, and I returned to the meditation practice I'd done in high school that was from India, called Vipassana. And so I did Vipassana and I did yoga, and that kind of regained my health, and that made me all the more serious about those things. And then I just like got super into it, and you know, I was just fully dedicated, like practicing every day for a day.
So you fully believe in like traditional medicine and healing and things of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, particularly those practices, meditation and yoga. That was my specialization.
Okay. And how do you do it currently, or like
I do
in your day-to-day life?
I do still do it in my day-to-day life. That time it was like the only thing I did, and meaning like I was a little more kind of narrow, or a little bit more like
focused,
kind of tunnel focused on yoga and meditation. Practice every day for like hours a day. I completed college. I worked briefly. I studied psychology, so I worked briefly in the field of psychology, but I ended up going into teaching yoga and in various places. I eventually ended up teaching yoga in corporations in San Francisco Bay Area, like tech corporations and stuff like that. And I was just so into it, man. I just, for like probably a decade and a half, I was
like, that was your passion.
That was my passion.
Okay.
That and writing and art. But
nice. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, like I used to love drawing in high school. So I was big into reading, drawing, just a whole bunch of stuff. I feel like I've kind of lost touch with that, and it's something that I want to work on getting back towards. But one thing I wanted to ask you was that you have this mentality of like wanting to find like peace and healing and that type of thing from the meditation and the yoga. What was it that you were trying to heal from?
Good question.
Was it like childhood trauma, or like what caused you to find peace within yourself?
A large portion of it was kind of childhood trauma. Like, it was a number of things kind of coming together. Like, one was that there's just a sense that there's more to reality than just what we see at the surface. That was one. That there's like, when it goes back to being raised in DC and being an academic family and being in kind of a political environment, there was never a discussion of like, why do we exist? You know? It was just assumed that like, you know, human beings, we exist, and this is, you know, we just have a society and we just have politics and academia, and we don't ask questions about like deeper stuff. We just kind of go along with whatever's happening or whatever's assumed. And so that's one thing, was like, what the hell is life? Like, what is going on? You know? Another one was also wanting peace, like wanting some type of just feeling, like maybe that I remember when I was very young, of just feeling like super content. And then another was the childhood trauma, like a lot of knots and confusion and like childhood conditioning that was all knotted up inside me, and wanting to unknot that. So it was a number of things that interesting. And how would you say like your childhood was, like growing up, like relationship with your parents, your siblings, you know? It was a mixed bag, because it was filled with blessings, like really wonderful parents at the base of it, and wonderful siblings, and really supportive family. They always supported my kind of like my vision and my path, and they're always giving me resources like education and good exposure, a lot of exposure to good stuff. Really supportive, but also like in childhood, it was a bumpy ride in the sense of like, so I have an older brother, about 5 years older, and then the two of us, when I was around 6, my parents got divorced, and went into kind of like a tailspin of like various complexities of like a split up family, like bad feelings on the side of both parents, and then like not really good boundaries with the kids in terms of like ragging on the other parent to the kids, and like it's kind of like
you feel like you had to pick a side,
like taking sides and just like
one way or the other.
There was then there was issues with like masculinity, and like on one side my mother was basically like feeling very hurt by my father, and she kind of took us and kept us close to her. And so we felt very supported by her, but she was very much against our father. And so it kind of caused like a lot of difficulty, because it was like we really wanted to kind of like protect her, or like it was kind of like it was complex, man. The kind of like parenting stuff going on, like the kids wanted to kind of care for the parent when the parents kind of wounded, and then also like parents turning the kids against each other. But with a son, it's like the father, that's like kind of like masculine role model. So, you know, want to like the mom to be okay, but then also like having to kind of like negate one's masculinity or love for the father in order to feel that the mother is okay. And like it just got like really difficult inside. And you know, kids are not really conscious of a lot of this stuff, like why, what the hell's going on, why it's going on, what even is going on inside them. There's a lot of emotions to sort out. So that's like what you said, like why did I go into these fields of self-exploration? A lot of it was to actually bring some light of awareness to like, why do I have so much internal conflict and tension, you know? And that's what I did. You know, I did that. I did all types of introspection and self-discovery, and in order to bring those areas to light and feel good.
I think I'm at a point now where I'm trying to like, and I've talked to Charlotte about this. There's a documentary on YouTube. It's called The Mask You Live In. I don't know, I think I sent it, I don't know if you've seen it, but I showed her like the little what's it called, the introduction. It's like a 3-minute just like trailer of the entire thing, but it's an hour and a half long. And The Mask You Live In kind of just talks about masculinity, and like how in our society, like boys are just like taught to suppress emotions and feelings and never to talk about what's going on in their lives. And so what the direction I kind of want to do this podcast is like just focus specifically on guys and men, and talk about kind of what's going on behind the scenes, because it's like, who do you necessarily like have that ability to do that with, you know? And the successful people that you see, and again, it's a very gray line when you say successful, because in front of the world, everyone can seem okay and great, but there are things that are unraveling or, you know, not put together behind the scenes. And so specifically with guys, I feel like that's a big thing. You know, myself dealing with like mental health issues and things like that. And I wanted to ask you, like, have you ever dealt with anything like mental health wise, or, you know, and when people say that like word, you think, oh, like a diagnosis or an illness or anything like that. But for me, I feel like what that just means is like, at any point in your life, have you doubted yourself? You know, because we all have the abilities within us, but sometimes like you have depression because you're like, I don't think I'm capable of doing this. I don't think I'm capable of getting up out of bed, showering, and going to work today. You know, you're literally like, your mind is like fighting your body and your heart to like, you know, function. And believe it, like, sad to say, but your mind's gonna win. You know what I mean? It's that powerful. Wow.
Yeah, like what? So you're asking me if I have like.
Have you ever dealt with anything like mental health wise, like throughout your years?
Well, I mean, I guess by that definition, yeah. Because I mean, that seems like par for the course of being a human is, you know, like having a mind is.
Like it's the most beautiful thing and also the most destructive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the mind is like the mind is something that keeps us alive, but it also keeps us kind of hypnotized, like, in a way. It's like if there's not, you know, the mind is meant to solve problems, and if there aren't problems, the mind will make problems to solve. And
it will, if and kind of the way I see it is like, if everything is going well in life, it'll find something, like your mind automatically focuses on the inefficiencies or what can be corrected or what can be done better. And so the way I think of it, it's like everyone has insecurities, right? You think, oh, I don't have this, or you're always judging yourself on what's not there, versus when you see someone like in your life, you always judge them for what is there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah,
I look
that's
at
a
you,
good
when I
point.
look at you, I don't see anything that you don't have or anything that you wish to have. You know
That is
what I
a
mean?
good point. Yeah. Like this comparison element that is always like kind of painful. You know?
And the easiest thing is like you can, when we talk about this, is like appearance, right? People will be like, oh, my face doesn't look good, my nose, my ears, whatever. But at the end of the day, like everyone else sees what's there and not what's not there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah.
It's true. We do see in others. Yeah, that's so weird. Like the human, it's almost like built in. It's like we're to assume that others have something and that to assume that we don't have it. Weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. That's just one of those things that I found intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess another thing, I'm sure that you might have noticed the energy that I have now versus 2 weeks ago or however long it was when I was here for Sean's birthday.
Yeah.
Completely different, right?
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, you're a little more outgoing now.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like,
so,
what are you sensing?
So the biggest thing for me is that like over the past 6 months or so, like I was just depressed and I wasn't, like I naturally am a social person. I like being around others, talking to them, hanging out and stuff.
Yeah.
But and I have no reason why, but I was forcing myself to isolate and seclude myself from everyone else. And so for periods at a time, I was just at home, stuck in my room, scrolling through my phone, like not really doing shit with my life. And then something happened. I was on Instagram like maybe a couple weeks ago, and I saw this post, and it was like this guy who does like not therapy, but like men's work. And what that means is like, you know, kind of what we talked about, where it's like guys come together, you know, talk about what's going on in their lives and like create a brotherhood and stuff. So I started listening to his podcast called The Evolving Man on my Spotify. So a lot of those things like just create, like spark that interest and that inspiration that, you know, we talked about in the pyramid about, okay, like I've let enough of my life and like time just waste away. Like I've got to like pick myself back up and do something with myself. And so around me, like family and friends and stuff, like when I started working back in September, they looked at me and they're like, oh, he's getting better, like, you know, he's got a job now. But in reality, it's like I don't, like the only difference is that I'm employed versus unemployed. Mentally, I'm still stuck in that same space that I was, you know, when I was going through all my problems, like battling my demons and stuff. But one thing, what he talks about is like, instead of like battling your demons, he calls them shadows. And I kind of like that, because that reminds me of like Batman, like the Dark Knight. When he's like fighting Bane, and Bane is like, you know, you merely adopted the darkness, but I was born in it. You know what I mean? So the way I see my life, it's like I've been through a lot of struggle, and I know I'm capable of like overcoming any situation, any environment, whatever is going on in my life. The only thing is, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions at all times. And by that I mean like I do stupid shit and I stay stupid shit just because a part of me is still like kind of childish and immature and thinks it's fun and like entertaining. And so it's kind of like what the period, or like what I'm trying to do, is kind of transition and like learn how to be a man. And everyone has their own definition of that. And so I'd like to know, what would you say is a man, or how would you define it? That
I would say
it's a very loaded question, by the
way. I would say just to kind of like quiet oneself and just be with oneself and feel kind of like the you-ness, you know, like feel just kind of like your energy of you, your awareness, your feelings, your body. And to just feel like I am a man, I feel like a man, and let me allow however that is meant to manifest, not according to anything I picked up outside of like a judgment I might have adopted about masculinity, but just what feels good, you know, what feels good to me, what aligns with my identity and my energy, my core energy, my like I mean, if I'm a masculine man, like my core maleness, or you know, like just something that feels good, that feels inside me, like aligned, and just let it express. You know, like just let it express. And you know, you can tell when people are in their element, they're like really feeling themselves. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm like really doing myself right now. It really feels good.
Because you can see like that little spark in their eye.
Yeah, you know, like
there's something different about it.
And I feel like part of our identification in terms of masculinity or femininity can be reflected in that. You know, like we're all aligned. All the different parts of us are aligned. We just feel natural. You know, natural. Like if you see an animal just being an animal, it's like it's just it isn't like overthinking or like resisting parts of itself. So that's what I think would be. I mean, the question was like how to express maleness or something, or how to be.
How do you define
being a man?
Being a man, or like what does that mean to you?
Right. And then like on a personal level, it would mean I feel that so I'm an astrologer. That's kind of my trade. And astrology there's the sun and the moon, which is associated with the masculine and feminine. It's a little bit more like the yin and the yang energies, and we all have them.
Right.
You know, a birth chart is a reflection of our own nature. So what is reflected there is that we all have the lunar, the solar, masculine, feminine, yin and yang. And for me, my own sense of like what it is to be a man is like coming to these points of awareness in the present moment where I say like I just make a decision, and that's not like that a woman can't do that, but it's part of the solar side that exists in all of us. Is like, oh, I'm gonna be this way because I say I'm gonna be this way. Like you know, it's kind of like will. It's like I'm going to be. You know, I'm going to feel good because I'm the one who's deciding that I'm going to feel good, or like I'm going to just any decision, you know, it's kind of like, why am I doing that? I'm doing that because I'm taking the agency to say that I'm doing that. And so that feels good
like
to me.
You're taking a stand for something.
Yeah, I'm taking a stand for just whatever it is that I want to be, and I'm not doing it for any external. I'm not doing it because, you know, I think it's cool, or someone else might think it's cool, or because someone told me to do it or something. It's just like me and myself, and I'm just making a decision, and that's all the legitimacy I need. You know, that's all the authority I need. It's like
you're not seeking any validation or
I'm just like and I'm also like I'm not doing this because I feel any external expectation that I have to do it. I'm just doing it because it's almost like I isolate myself internally, and I'm just with myself, and I'm like, you know what, I'm doing this. It's like a conversation with myself, an alignment with myself. You know, like I'm doing this because I'm doing this, and I say that I'm going to do this, and that's like cause enough for me. That's affirmation. That's reason enough for me. So there's something there that feels solar. Again, anybody can do it, male, female, but it feels like it brings out the best, one of the best sides of the solar side in all of us, which is like personal agency. We do it, you know?
Okay. Yeah. So I guess like currently, what is something that you've chosen to focus your energy on and kind of make that stand that I'm going to do this with my life, and, you know, maybe change directions or just kind of, you know, pivot in a sense?
Yeah. I mean, what I just spoke about, usually I do it at a base level, just kind of every day. And it's not even, the base level is not even having to do with a certain concrete external decision. It's just like a sense of like, I'm just going to be me. And, you know, like, it's just this kind of like a way of standing by myself. So even if somebody disagrees with me, or there's some opposition or whatever it is, I know that I've got myself. You know, like I know that I'm with myself. In terms of what am I doing right now that is pivots or is like my focus? Is that the question? Like,
I guess like, you know, where are you trying to like channel your energy towards? Like what goal or aspiration, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
I know you got a lot going on.
it's all one thing really,
Mhm.
which is like self-expression.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I'm an astrologer,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also an artist. And there's something that I express through my art and my astrology that is kind of like a spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my vision and my mission. And it's always been the same for almost most of my adulthood, at least probably maybe from my, I don't know, maybe my like mid 20s or something until now, but it does pivot in terms of like my approach.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been somebody who is trying to express something through my writing, through my art, and also through the practice of astrology, the work that I do with psychedelics, the work that I do with spirituality, like kind of a vision that is, I don't know, it's just tied. I mean, even when I was really young, it's all there. Like, you know, the sense that it's even those early questions, like I was talking about, like, so I grew up in an academic family, I grew up in a political environment, and I didn't really have other people around who were questioning, like, what is existence? What is reality? Why are we here?
Right.
Even since that point, even since I was really young, it's kind of the same mission. It's like, what is really going on beneath the surface of reality? What is existence? And also that there is something beneath existence that is unifying. There's a unifying principle for all beings, and there's something there that has to do with love. It has to do with kind of the best sides of beingness and of being a human. Is that there's something very important, kind of a hunger inside beings to feel
love.
Yeah, to feel that that life is meaningful. It's like a meaningful thing that is that life and us feel connected. Like life is, like the act of living is something that's really sacred, and that like we feel loved by life. You know, that we are life, and we are life, and life loves us, and we're kind of part of something really cool. You know, like living is amazing, and it's very cool, and we as a species and as a planet can take our potential like way higher than it is currently.
I mean, there's always room for improvement and growth. No matter what you're talking about. But I think what you mentioned is like we're all searching for love and feeling like a part of something. And I don't like, do you know J. Cole, the hip hop rap artist at all?
Yeah, I do a little bit. Yeah.
He's got one song. The album is called KOD, which is like Kids on Drugs.
Okay.
And there's one song where like the very last line is like, it says love is the strongest drug of them all. Right? We're all trying to, you know, get that dopamine or like the serotonin, like that. We're trying to get that hit in our brain to feel good, feel pleasure and stuff. And love is the most, you know, what is the word? It's the most infatuating experience, I guess. I don't know. But with any drug, you know, you've always got withdrawals and crashes and all that other, you know, fun stuff that no one wants to go through. But I guess one thing I want to say, do you believe in God, or do you follow any religion, or do you more so just, you know, believe in a higher power, or what's that whole...
I mean, I experience something every day. I would call it probably like the divine, maybe. That there is something that is very godly or very special, and it's kind of the heart of what we are. And so, I mean, to some degree, I kind of have intimations of that or experiences of that just about every day. And it doesn't have anything to do with religion. It doesn't have anything to do with much external to me. That's like, you know, people talking about even spirituality, religion or spirituality. It's more of like a experience. I mean, to be honest, like this is the way I experience it. Like, all reality in all its diversity of manifestation. You know, so much, like, the universe and creation just loves diversity. It's just, even in this room, there's so many different objects, you know, like even on this block, there's so many different types of people. Right. And it just gets more and more diverse, you know. It's just like, it's a vast plane of existence with so much diversity, but at the center of everything, everything actually shares the same center. There's kind of like an origin point and a center of all that diversity. There's kind of like one origin point. So it's like the opposite of diversity. That there's actually, within each of us is the same center, as different as we all are. You know, at the core of everything, at the core of existence is one thing. You know, it's like, and so, you know, people come up with kind of like stylized visions of like what heaven is, you know, like if you die. I know there was this movie, I can't remember what it's called, but I remember it had Brad Pitt in it. It was like in the 2000s it came out, where it shows the scene where like loved ones get reunited after, you know, like basically it's a scene of, it's basically like a picture of a beach with all these people on it. Okay. And it's everybody and who's ever died, and they're like reunited. They're like, oh, you know, like, oh, my brother, oh, my son, oh, my mom, oh, my, you know. Yeah. And so that's like a way of depicting it, but the sense that I have is like, you know, heaven, you know, it's like if heaven is reuniting with you know what you've lost, with people you've lost, my sense is that it's going back to the same core where everything is there. You know, like there's something in the center of us all that is actually the center of everything. So if you go back to that center, it's all there. You know, all the people that you've lost, they're there. You know, the essence of everybody and everything is the same essence at its core. So anyways, that's kind of my experience of the dimension, the spiritual dimension of life. Okay.
It was, I just loved sitting back and hearing you explain it, because the concept of this whole podcast that I'm trying to do was exactly explained and talked about in your own words, where even in the intro video where it's like, it's our identity. And I don't know if you saw like the little did you see like the little like intro clip?
No, I haven't. Shaman hasn't shown me.
Okay. All right. Well, in either case, it was basically talking about how like we're all diverse, but at the same, like we're all different, but we're all the same. You know what I mean? And I remember I heard one person say like, you guys are all different, or no, you're different just like everybody else, right? Like there's like a duality, and like it's a very
paradoxical.
It's a very paradoxical way to say like, and I the question I had was, because we're so different and so diverse and like millions and, you know, billions and however many different types of ways, is that like, is it because our brain can't comprehend all that we generalize and stereotype based on certain tendencies and certain things? Because the way I see it is like your brain, and as a human being, like for survival, you're always trying to analyze a situation and predict an outcome, right? If you're in danger, how do I get out of danger and into safety? If I know anything about somebody that looks like you, I'm going to use that as maybe an advantage, or say, because I've seen someone else that kind of resembles you do something, then I will, you know, calculate that into how this may play out.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The brain does do that. It is the brain is on kind of the wrong side of the paradoxical lens, because you know, if we are less in the brain, maybe more in the heart, or more in just awareness, we can get the sense that the paradox is that of all the diversity, creation at its core is the same. You know, there's the same heart, you know, to all the diversity. But the mind is on the other side, where it says, you know, like if I can be uniquely separate, then I can kind of like, there's more of a sense of that I can preserve myself against. It's like a different, just like a diametrically different perspectives. So on one side, you know, the more that we sense the similarity and all the diversity, the more we get a sense of unity of all.
You feel more connected.
More connected. But on the other side, the brain is like, the more I separate myself out, the more I can be self-preservative, you know? But the more I separate myself out, I'm going in the opposite direction where, like, you know, everything around me becomes more distinct, and it becomes like I keep having to make distinctions and more distinctions to be able to preserve my kind of like separate entity. And the brain, I mean, you began off saying that the brain always wins, in the sense that, you know, the way I would read that is like, or I think you said the mind always wins. Like the brain and the mind is like, you know, the way you described it is like it wants to survive, and so if it makes generalizations, and I believe you use the word like heuristic, kind of like way of reading things, which is like almost like its own statistician of like, you know, if I hedge my bets about this based on my past conditioning, I'm more likely to survive. You know, if I'm around these people, this situation, I should act like this. And the brain, in my experience, is like it's creating a interpretation of a situation, and then if we believe that interpretation, we strengthen that interpretation. So if we kind of get caught into the drama of the interpretation, we're actually strengthening the interpretation. It makes the interpretation more dramatic, more convincing, which will make us believe it more, which will strengthen the interpretation even more, make it even more dramatic, more convincing, which will kind of draw us into the drama and the play of the whole thing even more. So it's almost like
in a completely fantasized situation, it's just something that
like a dream. You know, when we're in a dream, you know, it might be like just kind of rolling along, nothing big happening, and then it kind of gets a dark hue. You know, if you get a sense something bad's going to happen, and then it's like getting worse, and then it's getting really tense, and the whole time, you know, a lot of dreams are like this, where you're not becoming more and more aware it's a dream. You're becoming more and more convinced it's real. You know what I mean? Okay. Like all these bad things are happening. It's like a nightmare or something. And it's not like, oh, I'm having a dream, chill out. It's not a big deal. It's like, whoa, this is like, these stakes are getting higher and higher, you know, like, so that there's like a hypnotism there that's like, so the mind is like, I oftentimes to myself liken it to like when I have a limb fall asleep, like if I lean on my arm too long and it like falls asleep and it's totally numb, and then I realize it's numb and I move and if blood goes back to it and like pins and needles go back, and I'm like, I know if I move my arm, these pins and needles are gonna hurt. And I'm like, don't move my arm. But then like a little muscle twitches, which for some reason makes another muscle twitch, and it's like hurting, but then more muscles twitch, and then like the arm starts moving, which makes more pain, but it's almost like I can't stop. Like somehow the stimulation of the muscles makes more muscles fire. Okay. And so it's like, and then it's like, pins and needles. So it's almost like that with the mind. It's like, it's almost like a muscle that is very easy to contract, but very hard to relax. You know, it starts to contract, it convinces us of like for instance, depression or like, or anger or whatever it is, you know, we get on a loop with it, and it starts to contract, and it's like really hard. The more that we're on the loop, the more we get convinced by it, the more it's contracting. It's like those things, you know, it's like those muscles that are like, you know, like it just keeps contracting. So anyways, that's another reason why I got really into yoga and meditation, because I was looking for ways to not
release that.
Not be on that negative side of the loop. You know, not like feeding into this drama that's just feeding the drama that's just like, you know, anger, depression, or like fear, or you know, mania, or like whatever it is. Right. You know? Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And have you ever done a float tank or?
I have. Yeah.
You have? Okay. Yeah. Like how many times? And what were
maybe 4 or 5 times.
Okay. What were your thoughts, experiences? Would you do it again?
I liked it. I mean, shoot, if I had like the budget for it or the convenience for it, I'd probably do it more. The time and the, I mean, Yeah, who knows? Maybe my ideal home, I just have one or something.
Yeah.
You know,
How much is it like per session?
Geez, I did it like 10 years ago in
Mm-hmm.
California, so I'm not sure what it would be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even really remember.
Okay.
I think a session was like maybe close to an hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
Okay.
how much it was.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's something that I've heard about and I kind of want to look more into. But kind of just explain what the whole situation was for anyone that doesn't know what a float tank is.
Yeah.
I have heard of the term. I really haven't researched any of it.
Yeah.
So based on just kind of what I'm imagining versus what you went through. Like
I researched a little bit because it's
Okay.
part of. I come from the field that has to do first yoga, meditation, and then psychedelic assisted therapy, astrology.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a particular strain of field that I come from, and the float experience is similarly. It's kind of similar, related.
Yeah. It's like in the
strain.
same family.
Yeah, same family.
Gotcha.
I began as a sensory deprivation tank, which I believe was invented by John Lilly.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea there is that you get into a space where you are there's water, and it has a saline content. It has it's a salt water that has a certain percentage of salt that makes you very buoyant. And the water is the same temperature as the body, so the water is heated up to like 98 point whatever degrees.
Okay.
And then the air is also the same temperature of the body. There's not really much light. There's supposed to be really no light, no sound necessarily. And so what happens there is the idea is that it's trying to, originally it's called sensory deprivation tank, because what it's trying to do is limit the amount of sensory data input that the mind is processing. So for instance, you're floating, so you're not using your muscles too much. You're not like moving. That would be sensory data. You're not feeling too much like touch of atmosphere or clothing, because you're basically kind of like nude or like in a bathing suit. And the water is the same temperature as your body, so you it's hard to you kind of get into a place of it's hard to feel what's inside and outside, like where the boundaries of your body end. Same with the air. No light coming into the eyes, not much sound. And so what happens is that the mind begins to enter into a sort of an altered state, because the mind is used to always taking in data and always interpreting data. So there's always a one-way valve, when we're awake at least. There's a one-way valve, because the mind is constructed to be kind of like an open, gaping valve that just takes in stimuli. So like if we're awake, we're moving around through the day, we're moving, we're touching. This is the sensation, sensory organ, tasting stuff, taste sensory organ, smelling stuff, smelling sense, olfactory sensory organ, hearing stuff, audio sensory organ, visual sensory organ, and then the mind is also a sensory organ because it's thinking. So that's also data, that we're experiencing.
Okay.
So the mind is always experiencing data, and it's always interpreting that data. We have a sensation that interprets that. We have a taste that interprets that. So we have a sound. Somebody says something nice to you or something bad to you. We're interpreting it. A sight, we're interpreting it. And so when it doesn't have those things, the mind starts to flip the valve, because it just can't. It doesn't have the influx of data to be able to keep that valve open. So the valve naturally goes the other way, and it starts like regurgitating sensory data that it's already swallowed. Which is kind of like dreams. Dreams, when we're in dreams, it's a little bit of that regurgitation. It's not like the mind is taking in new sensory data. It's kind of like regurgitating things and just kind of spitting it out. And so it's similar in the float tank. You start to have get really relaxed, and the mind can go into something. We could fall asleep and dream, or you could actually go into a state that is almost like dreaming. Like sometimes you see images, you kind of like, you think you might hear something, but you're not. Your mind's just kind of regurgitating up stuff, and it can be, I don't know, I think maybe positive. I haven't had a ton of experience with it myself, but positive in the sense that the there's, I don't know, there's something there that can be kind of getting in touch with ourselves and kind of getting off of the habitual mind and getting out of the habitual mind patterns, and also deeply relaxing. Maybe even the inner healing intelligence can get activated or stimulated.
Was it scary at first when you experienced that?
Not really.
No.
No, I wasn't. I mean, maybe it could very well be for some people, but I never got scared.
Because I feel like the way I'm thinking is like it might be claustrophobic or something like that.
Yeah. I think maybe some people could experience it that way. I didn't experience it that way. It's weird because it could kind of go both ways, because if you get into it, it feels actually dissolving. It feels like, even though you're in a tank, you can actually feel that you're very expansive, because you can't really tell where the boundaries of your body are. So you can kind of feel like just open and expansive.
Okay.
But I suppose you could also feel claustrophobic. You know, it could kind of like go either way.
Yeah.
And actually, the mind, now that I think of it, the mind, when it reverses the valve and the stuff from inside starts to come out, we can have our complexes come up. Like,
what do you mean?
Like traumas or complexes that are kind of, the mind keeps like below the surface of conscious awareness, kind of for survival. The mind is there for our survival, but it's kind of like a survival tool gone out of control. It makes us suffer.
It's like overpowerful.
It's like on overdrive. So that's one. So it's a trip, man. There's like many seeming paradoxes when the mind starts to, like for instance in a float tank, the mind starts to disengage, and we start to have that regurgitation of stuff. Our complexes can actually come up, which can actually make us feel bad and feel like we're not healing, we're feeling bad, we're feeling worse, and make us want to get out and get back into the normal state of mind. But actually what's happening there is that there is a healing thing that happens when our complexes come up and are allowed to come out. It's very odd, but it's almost like if there's maybe like a boiler, like a pressure cooker or something. The mind, there's something like really boiling inside there. The mind likes to keep the mind is like the top. It keeps like the top on.
Sometimes you'll get to a point where like you'll blow off some steam.
It just keeps it regulated. It blows off a little steam, but it keeps the whole thing kind of under wraps, like from boiling over. But if you get in these situations with float tanks or like psychedelic assisted therapy, meditation, a lot of different approaches, it's like taking the top off, hopefully releasing pressure, and then taking the top off so that the stuff can come actually up and out. Like we do want it to kind of like get cleansed of it. We do want it to come up and out. And it's almost like throwing up. It's like, you ate something and it went down, it's in your stomach, and you feel sick, and you feel like you're going to throw up, but usually people don't want to throw up because it's unpleasant, but they're feeling sick, they ate something bad. I don't know if you ever felt this, like you ate something bad, you're feeling sick, but you don't really want to throw up because it's just so unpleasant. It's like you gotta, but like if you do throw up, you're gonna feel better.
Right.
And so ultimately it is better to throw up, because if you just fight it, then like it stays in you, but you feel bad for longer. But if you throw up and you go through that unpleasantness afterwards, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. So it's like that with our complexes. They come up and they come out, and then we're free of them.
So what you label as trauma or challenges or stuff is complexes.
Yeah, you could say complexes. In astrology, there's something also called coex systems. That's in the psychology of Stanislav Grof. He's a kind of researcher, psychedelic assisted therapy, and the field of psychology and transpersonal psychology. It's the same thing. So systems of condensed experience is what he calls them. Jung called them complexes. but they're kind of the knots inside us. You know, the knots that are like, they're tense. They haven't really been straightened out, figured out.
Yeah.
You know? Could be some negativity there, like that.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a lot of cool stuff to talk about and learn more.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like all the stuff we're talking about. What attracted you to the float?
Well, it was just something that I heard about in like the podcast I was listening to.
Yeah.
And it's intriguing because in a sense, you're just left with nothing but your thoughts, you know.
Yeah.
And a couple of things. I don't know if you're big into movies, but are you a Harry Potter fan?
Yeah, I read the books.
Okay.
And I've seen some of the movies.
So when you said like the mind like kind of like switches to like outflowing,
yeah.
What that reminded me of is like you remember in the movies or even the books where they have like the pensive, where like they collect their thoughts and they extract them and then put it in, look at whatever it is that they're thinking of, and then put it in a little bottle or vial and then store it for whenever they want to return back to that.
Cool.
You know,
yeah.
that's what I thought of.
That's cool, yeah, totally. And it's almost like you could go to the reverse negative one is the Dementors. Remember the Dementors would catch somebody and they would make whatever bad thoughts they have worse. You know, like just, it's like going down that rabbit hole of like the mind, like, you know, like, oh, it's drama, it's bad. It's almost like, you know, when you drive past a car accident, you're like, I don't want to see it, but like, I want to see it. You know, it's like, the mind wants to go into this drama, and then it gets more convinced of the drama, and then it gets more want to see the drama, and they get, you know, just like So that's like the opposite.
We're almost drawn to negativity, you know, because I don't know how familiar you are, but there's like whole things online where like people will post fights and like videos of like altercations, arguments, just because it's like it's entertaining.
Yeah, you're like, what's gonna like? It's like, oh, worst case scenario. Like,
one, you want to know the outcome, and two, you want to know what started the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
like
we're nosy people.
Yeah, and it's and also it's like, if you're like, you know, if I go online and I'm like, oh, the way things are going today, it could go really bad. You want to know how bad it could go? You know, people are like, how bad could it go? Like, tell me more. It's like, oh, well, it could go bad in this way, which could lead to something even worse. You want to know about that? It's like, well, what's that worst thing? Tell me more, you know? And then it's like, I'm taking them down a rabbit hole of like negativity, you know? And that's like, that's a lot of, it's easy clickbait type stuff.
Yeah. If you can get someone's attention or just like, you know, their thing, you can do anything with it. Which reminds me, or like brings me to my next point, where it's like, at the end of the day, all we have is our focus and our attention.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean your abilities, what you can do today, you know, your abilities can change, your financial situation could change. Everything around you can change. Yeah. And we have this idea that we have time, but we really don't. We think we do, but we don't. The only thing we have is our attention, right? Yeah. So by that, I mean, like, in our everyday, you know, lives, what do you focus on, or like, what are you spending your energy on, right? Yeah. A lot of us, you know, will wake up and waste time going through social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that. You know, you spend time, you know, walking your dog. I know, because you've got pets at home. It's like what you choose to do with your energy and your attention really becomes your reality. Yeah. And if you pay attention to what's good around you, then your reality will turn good. If you pay attention to everything that's bad, then, you know, things will take a turn towards that direction.
Yeah, man, that's well put. Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah. Our attention, like,
your perception becomes your reality.
Yeah. Where you place your attention, that's good. Focus.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, or, you know, this has been fun.
Yeah. How about you?
I don't know. I feel like, so, what was the term you used again?
For what?
For challenges or trauma.
Oh, coex system. The one
complex. Yeah. We'll go with that one. Yeah. Even though it's complex, is the easiest one.
Yeah.
And so what is a complex that you're working through right now? Like in your day-to-day life, like, it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be, you know, what is something that might be bothering you, or something that you're trying to overcome?
Yeah, right. And the one about that I was talking about like in childhood, kind of having this sense of like something where there was tension, where it was like, oh, my mother, and she was vulnerable, wanting to like kind of like be there for her and empathize with her, but having to kind of almost like align against my father, which made me kind of align against my masculinity in a way. And then kind of just coming out of that, you know, it's like I'm 40, I'm gonna be 45 this month.
Okay. Happy early birthday.
Yeah, thanks. And you know, it's funny because I was so early in my life, but it's come to light only not too long ago. And so that's very freeing, you know, like to feel that was something that was kind of like unconsciously kind of influencing me.
Like it was programmed inside of you.
Yeah, it was something that was a dynamic inside me that was really troubling me, but I didn't really understand what was there.
Yeah.
And so now that it's coming to light, I'm really kind of like seeing all the pieces, and it feels good, you know, it feels good. It feels like I'm reclaiming parts of myself. So that's one. Where I'd like to release, you know, around complexes is like, I do have experiences of like tension in my body. You know, I go through experiences of feeling relaxed and feeling tense. And also I have experience with my jaw.
Okay.
Like when I go to sleep, it like slams shut.
Do you like grind your teeth at all, or?
I might do a little bit of that, but mostly it's like this kind of like banging of the teeth. Like, and so around that, there's obviously some kind of like still like tension and residual bouncing around physically inside me.
Okay.
So that is a kind of like an energy knot or something like that I would like to find.
You're still trying to identify what's.
Yeah, because I don't want to, you know, like when you go to sleep, there's something called the hypnagogic state, which is like, you know, I'm aware, and then I don't know if you experience this. You're like lying down, you're aware, and then your thoughts begin to turn funny. Like, you know, like you're thinking normal thoughts, and then like they kind of like take a weird twist and it's starting to go into dreams, and you're starting to lose awareness of the present moment and get into the dream state, and the hypnagogic state is the in between.
Okay.
And so as soon as I start to like relax and let go and not be awake, asleep, that's when it like slams shut. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that is the still active, like it's still happening.
Yeah.
You know,
how often do you dream?
I dream almost every night. I mean, I definitely, I think everybody dreams mostly every night, but like in terms of remembering my dreams, like I remember them almost every night.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, for me, I'd say I rarely dream.
Yeah.
Or at least I rarely remember.
Yeah.
But I would say I really do in general.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing. Let me see. So let's go a little bit into like the music and like the quotes and stuff.
Oh sure. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I know I asked you earlier and stuff like that. But basically, I wanted each guest to like share a piece of music and something inspirational to, you know, share with others that helps you get through whatever, you know, whenever you're having a bad day or anything like that. So please, you know.
Yeah. Flashlight by Parliament.
Okay.
Funkadelic, yeah.
Okay.
George Clinton, Flashlight. Yeah, that's a great, I mean, it just gets me pumped. It's like, it's just, and then there's a quote. The quote is from the song. It says, everybody's got a little light under the sun. And I like that because it gives us a sense that it kind of harkens back to what I was saying earlier. Like there's the same core to everybody. You know, as much as we might seem different, and you know that person's different, or you know, like we're all emanating, the whole diversity of the universe emanating from the same kind of central. It's like if you spin something, you know, like if you have like a wheel and you spin it, you know, the sides are like, you know, it's all spinning on one kind of like hub.
If you're at, okay, like, you know, none of us have gambling problems, I hope. But
Yeah.
like if you're at a roulette table,
Yeah.
all the outside, like the numbers and the colors and everything is different, but the center point is what's the same.
Yeah, it's what's the same, exactly. Yeah. So like, it's a good.
I hope you don't have a gambling
image.
problem.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Not yet.
Yeah, right. So, and then anyways, everybody's got a little light under the sun. I just like that, you know, because it's kind of like everybody matters. Everybody's got a little light under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
When did you first hear the song, or like how often do you go back to it, or?
I first heard it. I first heard Parliament probably when I was in high school, maybe when I was a freshman or sophomore, maybe, or something like that. And I go back to it periodically. I went back to it today. I mean, you asked me that, and then I think it just came up, or I just felt like listening to it, and then I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to share with you.
Okay.
Yeah. It always got me pumped, but I attended a Tony Robbins event, and he's all about getting people in a positive mind state and getting pumped.
Yeah.
And so like I use that in, you know, like you do a move that gets you pumped, and like I would kind of like call that song into my mind, because it just has this like, it's almost like the equivalent of a drop, like an EDM song, but it's not a drop. It's like, it's at the very intro. It has just like, I guess you could call it like a drop, but it's more of like an upbeat, just kind of like crystallization point, and that is the jam. Like that's just what just like gets me pumped.
Yeah. Okay. So I got, and because I love music, that's one of the things I spend a lot of.
Nice.
I can't sing, I can't play anything,
but you love
but I love just listening to it.
Yeah.
So I've got a few that I wanted to share with you. Recently, and by like a couple of days ago, I found this album. It's called Fortunate, and the artist, his name is Cozz. And there's a few songs on that album that speak to me. One is called Control Problems. Another is Higher Self, and the last one is called Cry. So you know, I'd love for you to listen to those things, but you know, more or less, the reason that that album speaks to me is because it goes over a lot of the pain and like the struggle and like the internal like conflict and self, not realization, but like the self understanding and awareness of like the environment around you is something that is not acceptable, but in like it's not the right thing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so like when you talk about like your jaw, it's like first identifying that and understanding like, you know, this is either right or wrong. That's the first thing before you can do anything with it. And then there's a song called Everything by Nas and Kanye West. Again, I don't know how well you.
Yeah, let me see the first guy so I can see how his name is spelled.
Yeah. And
so Cozz.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, I'll look up Control Problems, Higher Self, and Cry.
Yeah.
I'll look him up on Spotify.
Yeah, I got you. And then the last song is called Everything by Nas and Kanye. Nas obviously is one of like the top 5 rappers of all time. From New York, and then Kanye is a great producer, like beat maker. And this song, there's a line where it's like, if I could have everything, then I would and it's like if I had everything, I would change. If I could have anything, I would change everything, you know, around me.
Wow.
Where it's like we want to make a perfect world and a perfect reality for ourselves, and what that means is a complete, you know, shift 180 degrees from, you know, what we see around us to where the idealized or like the efficient or, you know, the best outcome is. So that's why I love that song.
Awesome, I can't wait to listen.
I
love Nas, and I know Kanye can produce some good tracks. So.
And then the quote I had was, "The strongest don't survive, the most adaptable do." Yeah. So.
Where'd you get that from?
It was a book that I read. It's called Unlearn: 101 Simple Truths for a Better Life. And I know the author, but it's not in my head right now. But it's a great book to read. What was I gonna say? One thing you mentioned earlier was about the Brad Pitt movie, when you know you're in heaven and you see everyone around you. I just thought it was kind of like funny and comical in a sense where it's like everyone that you want in your afterlife is like your family and like your brother, sister, and all that. But down here, we'll call it on Earth, sometimes those people are the ones that we have like the worst relationships with, right? Like you got the biggest problems and the biggest issues with like, oh, she did me wrong, or he did that to me, like that pissed me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even going from that thought to the next was like my world history teacher in sophomore year of high school. He told the class, he was like, what are the three religions that fight the most? Right? The Abrahamic religions between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And he's like, why are those three the ones that fight? Because they're the most similar.
Wow.
You're not fighting anybody. Whoever your arguments or fights are against is the closest people around you, your family and friends.
Wow.
So the religions that believe in almost, and again, I don't know the percentage, but like the majority have the same prophets, the same stories, the same belief systems, are the ones that are like, no, you're looking at this wrong, you're looking at this wrong, you're looking at this wrong.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another good observation.
Yeah. So I guess my last question to you is, what is your purpose?
What's my purpose?
Yeah.
Well, you saw my pyramid over there.
Yeah, I mean, you can share that if you want, or
I don't know. It's just basically kind of a pyramid is my priorities. Kind of. What is my purpose? Life mission work has to do with what I already spoke about, which is practice astrology and engage in work with folks who are doing deep self-exploration and help kind of talk about a different perspective or a different paradigm in which is harkens back to what we said, like that there's that what is the kind of common cultural assumption of reality is not on the surface, like that we're on the earth and the universe and everything's kind of mechanistic and materialistic and like you are a being, an organic being, and your consciousness comes from your brain with all the chemistry therein, and if you're depressed, like take some psychotropic medications and like a different perspective that something that goes more to the core of like, why are we even here? What is exactly happening? Like, why are we perceiving each other as separate, and then going and finding out and seeing that there's something that is happening that is at its core just way different from the cultural kind of assumption collectively of the world right now. Leads to a lot of difference and a lot of kind of like shady side glancing at each other and like but there can be a sense of living that like life is just not the way it's thought of in the popular current paradigm at all. It's like a amazing gift, like this may sound a little bit radical, but like all existence, all reality is made of love in the sense that life creates this, the universe, us beings, so that it can encounter itself. Like it creates us with all of our challenges, so we can grow because we are life. So life gives birth to itself so that we can grow, we can be challenged, we can kind of overcome, and we can meet ourselves. You're also life, I'm life, we're both life. So that life can be separate itself out, so that it can can face itself and meet itself, its diversity of itself, and bring about love, bring about empathy, compassion, love. And that, it's like, oh, we're on this planet, in this universe, and, you live only so long, and you got to kind of like make what you can with what you have, and, make some kind of material success. And then you die. And the sense for me is like, no, this whole thing, this whole drama, this whole play is coming from a higher order, putting us into form so that we can have actually a very profound experience of coming into form, meeting ourselves, going through the challenges, the hurt, the heartbreak, and ultimately the love to, you know, to be able to see that like the divine is in form. It's not mundane at all. There's nothing kind of boring about reality. It's all divine. So that would be my life mission kind of thing. And then and then also with that would be the relationship side and the expression side, you know, expressing beauty, being able to just express, have fun, be free, also be in relationship, you know, be able to actually like spend time with other beings, share love, you know, share existence, enjoy, be happy, share, spread happiness. That would be my purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think what you just described explains your fascination with mirrors.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh,
if you like take a step back and think about it, where it's like you see everything around you, you see a part of yourself within, you know, for example, me, Gordon, you know, Shaolin, everyone around you that you love, and so facing that mirror and seeing yourself, sometimes that's the most difficult. Right? Yeah. Because the most difficult thing is taking accountability for your mistakes or your wrongdoings or you know, whatever actions that you're not proud of. Right. Because everyone will be there to, you know, cheer you on when you graduate from college or you buy a new house or you know, you get a new car, and you know, I'm happy you guys got a new crib. But you know, it's those things that are uncomfortable that you sometimes don't want to do and you avoid. And you know, no one's gonna be there for you at those times. You know? So you gotta learn how to like pick yourself up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Damn. Nice.
At least that's my view on it. You know,
that's cool.
You could say you're completely
some
wrong.
More great observations. Man.
Yeah. All right. I think. Is there anything you want to talk about, like artwork wise, books? You know.
Maybe it depends on what time it is. Actually. Yeah.
This is another great reason why I like doing this, where you can't tell the time, and also like I don't want to keep my episodes to a certain length because everyone has a different amount that they've gone through. Yeah, whether because based on like your years of life, but also like, you know, challenges. Right. You can fit 1 million problems into 10 years. Right. Or you know, you could be, again, not to generalize, but you could have a cushy life and have 10 major problems in 50 years. Right. So that's a shorter episode. You may live longer.
That's funny.
You know what I mean? So. Yeah. All right. Want to wrap this up or?
Sure. Yeah. Wrap it up.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys once again for joining and learning a lot more about James Moran. This has been very insightful.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tokyo.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been insightful for me too.
All right. Cool.